welcome everyone to our monthly Saturday Stories. And this month, May, is Asian Heritage Month. And so we've been featuring some illustrators at the Society and here in our virtual program today, illustrators who have Asian background. And it's my absolute pleasure and delight to be introducing you to X.Fang this morning, who is from Taiwan originally, born in Taichung, Taiwan, but was raised in Atlanta, Georgia. And I'll be telling you more about X.Fang in just a moment. I just wanted to welcome everybody and new participants. If you don't know the format, we have a lovely presentation behind the scenes with our guest, and then we do some live drawing. So please do have your drawing materials ready, and you'll be drawing along with X.Fang this morning. And also ask your questions. We love to hear some questions, which I will ask X.Fang during the workshop portion. There'll be a presentation and a reading of this wonderful book, Dim Sum Palace. And now I'm going to tell you a little bit of special details about X.Fang. So this is X.Fang's first book. She's published a book that she's authored and illustrated. And this won an award, a very important award at the Original Art Show for last year, 2023, at the Society of Illustrators. This is a juried show. We receive thousands or hundreds of over 1,000 entries, and a professional jury looks through all of the books and artwork, and then we have medalists who are awarded. And X.Fang got the Newcomer Debut Award, which is the Dilys Evans Award, and Dilys Evans is the founder of the Original Art Show, so it's a great honor. And this is a very fun book. I really have enjoyed sharing this book through all the OA tours that we did during 3 months that the show was up at the Society of Illustrators. And then we went to Bologna, Italy, where the book was featured again in a selection of artwork that we had hung for the Bologna Book Fair. And we had international audience coming by and looking at all the art. And this book was very much enjoyed. I showcased it and told various little snippets about how X.Fang came up with the story, which you'll all find out this morning. I'm not going to say too much because she's going to be able to share all of that wonderful information with you in just a moment. And there is a few surprises with this book, which is always really fun, and it might make you think about any books that you get in the future that you might want to have a peek inside certain areas of the book. That's a little spoiler alert. So the book is Liddy, who really is based on X.Fang's own childhood and memory of eating dim sum and having a total love of this type of food, the dumplings, if you're familiar with the little carts that go around in these big restaurants filled with, the carts are filled with dumplings of different types that have interesting fillings inside, and you select them, and they keep going around the restaurant. It's very, very festive, very, very memorable, and it's something that in Asian culture would be a celebration, big family event. And if you haven't been to one, you'll really enjoy it. If you're participants joining us from the New York area, you could totally find some down in Chinatown for sure. And so as X.Fang will tell you this morning, she came up with this idea during lockdown when she had a big craving for her favorite food, dumplings. And we'll hear more behind the scenes in just a moment. So X.Fang also, I wanted to let you know, graduated with an undergraduate degree in fine arts and a master's in fine arts. She graduated from University of Pennsylvania with her master's degree. And then she worked as a professional graphic designer and art director in film and television, and has now more recently become a picture book maker. So author and illustrator. So she does the words and she does the pictures for our younger viewers. You love to probably make stories too. So this is very inspiring when you see a book that's been illustrated and written by the same person. So have your drawing materials ready, and we will be getting started to hear more fun details about the book and the inspiration, which was also somewhat inspired by In the Night Kitchen by Maurice Sendak, who a lot of you will already be familiar with his books, and is also about food. So the love language of food, as we say. And what else would I? Oh yes, there's a new book coming out which you definitely want to check out as well, called We Are Definitely Human, and it's a very fun book. So that's coming
I have a
And
copy here.
there's a little copy. You can get a sneak peek. And
Yeah.
that's coming in August. So this is a really amazing book. I recommend if you can get it from your local bookstore. We love to support our local booksellers, or get it from your libraries. I know all the libraries will be carrying this book. It's award-winning and a very inspiring book. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce you to X.Fang this morning. Welcome, X.Fang, from
Thank you
Maine.
so much. Yes, I'm here in Maine. I'm not originally from Maine. I am originally from Atlanta, Georgia. And then was living in New York for a while, and then Philadelphia. And then my husband and I decided we want to live in the middle of the woods where our only neighbors are deer and wild turkey. And that is what we did. So I think I'm gonna do my presentation. So let me share my screen and we'll get started on that presentation. Okay, let's do that. Share. Okay. Are y'all seeing that okay?
Yes, that looks amazing. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, hello again. My name is X.Fang, and I'm here to talk to you about my picture book called Dim Sum Palace. Now, before I start talking about the book, I need to talk about this girl right here. This is me on my first day of elementary school. Now, if you were to tell this girl that one day she would write and illustrate a picture book, she would think you were crazy. Because when I was this age, and honestly through most of elementary school, the scariest place for me was dun dun dun, the school library. You see, I moved to America when I was 4, and so I didn't speak a lot of English when I started elementary school. And I remember whenever the class would go to the library for story time, I could never follow along with the story. I didn't laugh when everybody else laughed. I wasn't surprised and I didn't, have any kind of idea what was going on. But very quickly I was embarrassed by my lack of understanding. And so I avoided the library at all costs. I was raised by a single mom. There she is on the left. My grandparents and sometimes my older brother. But we were all new to America. So we were all trying to learn English, and there was very little time for anybody to read picture books to me. I know, it's so sad. So as a result, I missed out on a lot of classics. You guys might be familiar with some of these books. These are just classics in the picture book world, but they totally eluded me when I was of picture book age. But don't be too sad, because even though I didn't have a lot of exposure to picture books, I was surrounded by a lot of art. My grandparents loved traditional Chinese art, and they would have all these prints around their house, and they would have books that showed a lot of traditional Chinese art. They had books that taught you how to make Chinese, like traditional Chinese ink and brush art. And so I always remember my grandmother just like doing like these bamboo drawings or trying to replicate some of the drawings she saw in her book. My mom, on the other hand, loved more modern painters. This is a landscape painting by Paul Gauguin. And her absolute favorite painter was Pablo Picasso. And like my grandparents, when she had some spare time, she would copy Picasso paintings from the book, and she was pretty good at it. I feel like she could have been a great forger of art. So even though I didn't have a lot of picture books in my life, I was surrounded by a lot of art. And so I was constantly drawing. And I think I got pretty good at drawing. Do you want to see something I made when I was very young? Ta-da! Look at this amazing painting I made when I was young. I'm kidding. Obviously, this is a painting by Pablo Picasso when he was very, very young because he was a child prodigy. That is not me. But you see, my mom didn't keep any of my art from when I was a kid. So I don't have anything to show you. but I remember being very good. Maybe not Pablo Picasso good, but who knows? There's no evidence to prove otherwise. So maybe I was this good. I like to think that I was this good. um, so I guess the lesson here is if you think you might be an artist in the future, make sure someone in your family holds on to some of your work right now. So in the future, you would avoid having to give a presentation and then pretend a Pablo Picasso painting was yours. But it'd be kind of funny if you did. So this is my actual artwork. I ended up going to the University of Georgia to study art. And so this is some of the drawings I made. I love black and white drawings. I love using graphite, pencil, and charcoal, and just making these like weird, moody black and white drawings. While I was there, I also studied graphic design and illustration. It was in one of my illustration classes that my professor suggested we look at picture book illustration. And so at the age of 19, I started reading picture books. And I got to tell you, picture books are amazing. I highly recommend reading them, regardless of how old you are, because you can read them at any age. And so I'm telling you all of this because I'm an example of a late bloomer, someone that takes a while to catch up to everybody else. I could hardly read when I was young, but now I'm making books for young people, which is mind blowing for me. All right, let's get into Dim Sum Palace. For those who are not familiar, dim sum is a Chinese word that is used to describe a snack or small serving of food, usually eaten around brunch time. It could be a plate of dumplings, shumai, a small plate of veggies, noodles. It's all dim sum. Dim sum, again, is usually eaten around brunch time, but Chinese people, we don't call it brunch. We call it yum cha in Cantonese or ying cha in Mandarin, which means with tea. So if you go to a traditional dim sum spot, the first thing they put down on your table is a big pot of tea. And so then you have women pushing around carts filled with steamers, filled with different kinds of dim sum. You wave one down, they come to your table, they show you all the varieties of food that's on their cart. You pick out what you want, you gobble it up, and you wash it down with some nice tea. It's the best. It's the best. You should, if you're not familiar and you've never tried it, you should go. You won't regret it. Dim sum has been around for hundreds of years. It started when tea houses in China started serving food with their tea. The trend became so popular that it spread throughout the country and to other parts of the world. Here we see a photo from almost 200 years ago of some businessmen drinking tea and eating dim sum. Not much has changed, except for maybe the clothes, but it's still an opportunity for people to eat together and gather. Like Claire said, dim sum is my favorite thing, and I thought about it a lot during lockdown because it's so communal. There's just like a lot of people gathering in one place. It's very loud, it's very ruckus, and it's something I deeply missed during lockdown. And I missed it so much I became slightly obsessed, just thinking about it all the time, just thinking about the food, thinking about the experience. I thought about it so often that this little drawing popped into my head. And the drawing sparked an idea for a story. Now, people who see this drawing think it's a drawing of a person being crushed to death by a dumpling, the end. But for me, this is a person who was crushed by a dumpling but has decided to survive and eat her way out and eat her way out to survive. And I just love it because who wouldn't love to be crushed by their favorite food? And an easy way to survive being crushed by your favorite food is just like eat your way out of it. I mean, it just seems like a wonderful fantasy to me. Like if your favorite food was cake and a giant piece of cake fell on top of you, and all you had to do was like eat through your favorite food to survive. I just think that's an amazing dream.
Oh, yes.
So the image of a small person and giant food made me think of a picture book called In the Night Kitchen by Marie Sendak. In the book, the main character, Mickey, falls asleep and wakes up in the night kitchen, and he is made into a piece of cake. Speaking of cake, I was very inspired by this book. As artists, we're always looking to other artists, other things in the outside world for inspiration. In fact, Marie Sendak, the author of this book, was inspired to make this book by another artist named Winsor McCay and his Little Nemo comics. Now, Winsor McCay and his Little Nemo comics always had the same format. A little boy named Nemo would fall asleep and wake up in this fantasy world and go on these like epic, elaborate adventures, and always wakes up in his bedroom. And so, taking inspiration from Marie Sendak, from Winsor McCay, and from what the visuals that I grew up with, which were a lot of Asian art, I started working on my own book. When you're making a book about dim sum, I feel like it's very important for the food to look as delicious as possible. So one of the things I started doing before I worked on any interior art or even fleshing out the story was drawing a lot of dim sum. You gotta be the dim sums in order to draw the dim sum. So I ate a lot of dim sum for quote unquote research, and drew a lot of dim sum. So through this entire bookmaking process, I think I gained like 20 pounds, but it was all for research,
Good cause, good cause.
Yeah. And so once I started playing it, I figured out how to like make very delicious looking dim sum. I started sketching out the characters that I wanted to be in the book. To your left, you have early designs and sketches for the chef characters. And to your right, you have sketches for Liddy, the main character of the story. You notice that their shape and their silhouette is all very like plump. I wanted them to kind of like resemble dumplings in a way. So all of their figures are kind of like dumpling shape, very round, very full of like just like juicy people. I wanted the people to fit in with this like delicious world, like people who would appreciate a delicious world. And so these are some early sketches. And before I make any interior art, I make the cover. I like starting with the cover because I put a lot of effort into it. And if a cover is really good, it kind of motivates you to make sure the interior art is up to par with the cover. And so, and also I used to work in film where one of my responsibilities was overseeing the posters of each film. Like a movie poster, a good book cover really grabs a person's attention and makes the person want to see a movie or pick up a book. I had an image early on of what I wanted the cover to look like, which is on your left. So I sketched that out very quickly. And very quickly, I realized that the cover might be very, very complicated. And so because this was my first book, I got very nervous that I wouldn't be able to do a good job drawing this drawing all in one sitting. And so I thought, well, maybe if I break up the drawing into individual pieces, like Liddy, the main character, I can draw her on a separate sheet of paper. The green onion, the Napa cabbage, I can draw them all on separate layers, just so I just have to focus on one thing on a piece of paper instead of multiple things. And the idea was I would draw everything on a separate piece of paper. You can see that example on the left. Example of everything drawn separately on the right. The idea was to draw everything separately, scan it, and then assemble it in Photoshop. And so that's what I did. And very quickly, I realized I didn't like it, because everything was drawn on a separate layer. When when I put it together in an image, nothing fit as well as I thought it was supposed to fit. Like the green onions, like the scallions along the side of Liddy in the central image, it didn't curve in enough. And so it was a hard decision to start over. But especially, it's hard to start over when you spent so much time on a drawing already. But this cover didn't make me really excited to start on the interior art. And so the goal was to make a cover that really got you excited to continue making the interior art. So I had to suck it up and start over. And here is a little time-lapse video. Oh, sorry. Are you seeing the video play?
Not right this second. We're seeing it's, oh, just hit play there. Yep.
Oh, there we go.
Perfect.
Right. So this is a time-lapse video of me drawing the cover all in one go. As soon as I started drawing, I realized, oh, I can do this. I know how to draw. I don't know why I complicated my life by wanting to draw everything on separate layers. But I think when you're starting everything new, you try to anticipate all the problems that can arise. And so you try to find solutions before you hit the problem. And sometimes the solution to the problem you think you'll have isn't actually is the problem, you know? And so once I started drawing this cover, I realized, oh, I've been drawing for decades. I know how to draw. I can draw this image. And so it was all just about confidence. And drawing this drawing made me realize, oh, I know how to draw. It made me remember my own confidence in my drawing abilities. So this is the final drawing.
Beautiful.
And then after I finish this drawing, I scan it on a fancy scanner that I have that is connected to my computer. And then I put it in a program called Photoshop, and then I start layering in colors. Now, if you remember my fine artwork from, it's all black and white. So I feel very comfortable with black and white art, and I feel less comfortable with color. And so coloring everything digitally allowed me to experiment with like different color palettes without feeling like I had to start over if I was drawing this in color pencil. So that was a way that I could, you know, save my sanity and also experiment and learn like what kind of like color palette I liked. Now, this entire image was done with very few color, but it's surprising how much much color variation you can get just by changing the opacity of it in Photoshop. So that is a cover. And so once I had the cover, I started the interior art. I begin with a lot of thumbnail sketches. Thumbnail sketches are very small sketches, usually the size of a cracker or a postage stamp. And these are really, really rough. You shouldn't be able to tell what is going on, but as the artist, as the person making them, you kind of get a vague sense of what a scene is. But the whole point of making a lot of thumbnails is to imagine all the ways a final image could look before you spend time on the final image, if that makes any sense. And then after I make really rough thumbnail sketches, I refine it. I pick out a few thumbnails that I think work, and then I refine those sketches. For example, this is a very rough thumbnail sketch, very small, but you can see that I'm like placing like, oh, okay, maybe I want like a stack of bamboo steamers here, maybe the main character is here. So it's all kind of rough and you can't really tell what is actually in the steamers, like what food is on the plates. But the whole point is so I can rough out how I want the composition to look. From there, I make a more refined sketch. The sketch is still pretty small, but now you can see the main character. She has a face, and the plates have little semblance of like what the final food will be. So you can see that there's food on the plate, spoon in the bowl, food in the bamboo steamers. And once I have this small sketch. I move on to another sketch. Now this sketch is to the actual scale, like a bigger sketch, to the actual scale of the final art. And so once I have everything roughed in, I take tracing paper and I trace the outline of everything onto a final piece of paper where I then begin my final art. And this is the final art.
Beautiful.
So thank you. So one thing that is a result of drawing everything in pencil in black and white, scanning it, and then coloring it is that I am making a value study when I'm drawing. And so there's always I realize if I try to recreate this in color pencil, I won't get the same values because there's no as much as nice as the color pencil you have, you can't get some of the dark contrasts as you can with just really good soft graphite. And so that's something that I really love and something to think about your value studies. And so again, I scan it into the computer and then I start layering color. And so all of these colors are on separate layer. The yellow is on a layer, the white is on a layer, there's orange, there's green. They're all on separate layers, either underneath the pencil drawing or on top. And then they're either layered on top of the drawing or used as a mask. That might be a little bit technical for younger viewers, but just know I'm coloring everything digitally. I'm using a very limited color palette. There's probably only 4 colors, but I just make the colors very light or very dark. So when you shift the opacity on colors, you get more variation on those colors. I think having a limited color palette is very works really well because otherwise you'd be overwhelmed with all the color. Like this image is already very, full and chaotic. To add way too many, to introduce too many color, I feel like might detract from the overall image. So I'm a big supporter of limiting your color palette and being creative with the color palette that you have.
Yep.
Okay, now I'm gonna go back to this image. So after I finished all the interior art, I realized I had just stacks and stacks of dim sum studies, like drawings of little dumplings. And I wanted to do something fun with them. And so I decided to use all the dim sum and make it into the end papers. The end papers are when you first open the book, they're kind of like the wallpaper along the inside of a book. And so once I decided these would be the end papers, I thought that looks like a menu for a Chinese restaurant. And so playing off of that idea, I decided to make a secret cover for my book. So if you remove the jacket of my book, you'll see, yeah, a hidden cover underneath. And it's supposed to look like a Chinese restaurant menu. And in the back, you have all the beverages you can have, and there's even a lunch special. So that's a really fun detail. And and one final thing, because there are probably a few aspiring artists out there, is what materials I use. Having tried all kinds of pencils, I love drawing with pencil and paper and erasers, but my favorite brand is Tombow brand graphite pencils and Blackwing matte pencil. I don't know why. I've used all kinds of pencils, but these just feel right in my hands. And I like to sketch on marker paper and then do my final drawing on Bristol paper. I recommend trying as many different materials as you can and then find the one that just feels right in your hand. All right, so now we're finally ready to read my book, Dim Sum Palace. Dim Sum Palace, Words and Pictures by me, X.Fang. Liddy was excited for bedtime because the next day her family was going to the Dim Sum Palace. Is it a real palace? Will I meet an empress? Liddy asked. You'll just have to wait and see, Mom replied. Good night, my little dumpling. But Liddy didn't mind one bit because the food tasted better than in her wildest dreams. The end.
Bravo!
Yay! Let
Love
me
having
end.
read it. It was so wonderful.
Oh, thank you. So, right now I'm gonna do a drawing demonstration for y'all. I think we're gonna draw Liddy as a dumpling.
Yes, have fun. So everybody have your drawing materials ready.
Yep.
And if you have any questions, now would be a good time to write them. I know sometimes we have curious, even adults who are watching and enjoying and fans of picture books and followers of you too, X.Fang. So do ask a question if you have one. I ask the questions during the workshop, and I'll have a few questions of my own because I'm very impressed with your book, and also that Tundra really was also so impressed that you really your idea for the cover, they loved it. You know, that doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that in a
Yeah.
minute.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so for this drawing demonstration, I have my pencil and an eraser. I think my favorite material to use is an eraser because I like drawing, but I change my mind very frequently. So I like having an eraser there just as self-assurance that I can change my mind whenever. And so pencil and an eraser. And if you have some color pencils, I would suggest grabbing like 3 color pencils. What I have are this will be for Liddy's skin, and I have 3 colors because like our skin is not one color. It's a combination of different colors. So I have like a light peach, like a tangerine type color, and then a magenta color. Maybe something like a lighter color, a medium color, and a darker color. All right, now let's begin. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna start off with a pencil, and you might not see it very clearly, but be patient. I'm gonna go over everything with a marker after I block everything in. So the first step is to block everything in, just to make sure we're using the entire paper. You know, I like making sure the main character is like central. So we start off by making a circle for Liddy's head.
So if you can draw and answer questions, X.Fang, that would be splendid. So I'm going to ask you a first question, which was rather
Sure.
interesting. So I don't know how many of you noticed this, but someone has asked, first of all, there's a comment and great presentation, exclamation mark. I totally agree. This was a fabulous presentation. You could fully do, you can teach a course, you know, that X.Fang. We'd all be very happy to take your illustration course. And the question was, what is the dot in the center of the Empress's head? Is it significant of something?
It is just like a mole. And my grandmother had like a big like beauty mark, like a mole right there. So it was just kind of like a little nod to her because she has like a little beauty mole right there. And so
That's
yeah,
interesting. And interesting that our viewer spotted that. But there
yeah,
you go. It's not a symbol of anything. It was just a beauty mark and a nod to her
yep,
brand, which is lovely.
yes,
Lots of illustrators do little cameos of family members or pets in their books.
yes, yeah. So
Uh,
I've drawn a circle for Liddy's head, and then underneath I'm gonna make like a triangular shape. I'm just like blocking out where the dumpling will go. So obviously the dumpling isn't the shape of a triangle, but it kind of helps just to see how the character works in the space. So I think this is like a good size for Liddy's head, the dumpling body, and then her feet will go down here, right? Okay.
Perfect.
So once I have like the head and the body blocked in, I'm gonna go and start like curving out the dumpling body. So I usually like from like one point to the other point right here, you'll just like make like a curve because dumplings are filled with filling. So they should be a little round. So you round this side right here, and then you go and do the same thing on the other side. you like round it out. And it's okay if it's not perfect at this stage because you're using a pencil. You can have your eraser so you can start over whenever. And then you do the same thing for the bottom. Just like round it out.
It's very relaxing doing this, actually.
Yeah.
That's myself.
Okay. Yeah. So we have Liddy and this is the dumpling body for Liddy. And now let's focus on Liddy's head. So the first thing I want to start to do is like give her 2 ears. That'll like ears. So it's like a half circle on one side, and then you just follow that line and make sure you have the same half circle on the other side. So we have Liddy's ears right there. And then we'll give her some hair. Her hair, I think about shapes a lot. How do you recreate the shapes for viewers following at home? So for the hair, imagine the shape like of an almond. So Liddy has add like maybe like an almond shape right here, the top right there. And do the same thing at the other side, like a little almond shape. And then she has bangs that are just kind of like one really long and narrow almond shape, or like a teardrop. Teardrop that falls off to the side. So that's probably what her hair shape looks like. All right, so we have that. And then she also has some pigtails at the bottom, which just like little circles, half circles down here. Okay, so now we have her hair blocked in. We're gonna work on her face. Now, if you remember, Liddy was not thrilled to be made into a dumpling, so she has her like brows furrowed. And so you can just do that by like making a little line where her brow is furrowed. And then we have her face, her eyes. You probably can't make it out, but I'm going to go over it with markers so you'll be able to see more. And then, so for her nose, I like to start off with like a circle, like a really light circle. The circle is probably not perfectly round. It's probably a bit squished, a squished circle. And then I darken the outside of the circle. So it's just like the outside of her nose. And then you have little holes for the nostrils. Her mouth is she's probably frowning because she hates being made into a dumpling. She would rather eat dumpling than to be a dumpling. So she's like, frown. And then gotta include her cute little chin right there. All right. So we have Liddy's face. And now I want to focus more on the dumpling. Let's add some arms to the dumpling. So it's almost like Liddy has like popped her hands out of the dumpling body, so she has like hands coming out of the dumpling. And so you do that by just making like one long O, or like what other shape does this look like? Maybe like a baguette. Like a long baguette right here. Yes, maybe a hot dog bun, or like a hot dog, or gherkin.
Yeah.
And so you must be thinking, that doesn't look like a hand. But sometimes you just simplify it and just add like 3 lines and then a thumb. I think that looks like a hand. And then you do the same thing on this side. Three lines and a thumb. Okay. Now dumplings, they have folds in them, right? So we got to make sure our dumpling has some folds in it. Right there. And Liddy has feet that's popped out. So let's make sure we get her feet in there. Pretty simple. We just add a little rectangle at the bottom. Divide that rectangle in half. And those are her like ankles and calves. And then we make this shape. what is this shape called? Is this like a rhomboid? I don't know. Claire, do you know what this shape is called?
Yeah, something like a rhomboid. I think that's
Yeah.
correct. Yeah, those of
Here.
you studying geometry can write that in the.
Yes, please
Mhm.
educate me. All right. So now I've blocked everything out with my pencil. I'm gonna go in and erase like the faint outline of the triangle that we had, and then like anywhere where some pencil marks are overlapping, clean things up a little bit. Okay, and now I'm gonna go over everything with a Sharpie. And the point
Mhm.
of the Sharpie is so people back home, people watching
Yeah.
on Zoom can see
Yes,
clearly.
great.
So I'm gonna just like outline.
Perfect. Yeah, now you can all see
Oh,
children who are drawing. Obviously, you will be doing it in your pencil. And as X.Fang said, if you make any little mistakes, it's easy to erase it. But she's going to just outline it so you can clearly see the shapes. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions while you're doing the outlining.
sure.
Kate Turner, thank you for joining, Katie. As author illustrator, what is your typical day like? How much time do you spend in your studio? Well, as a side, let me just let you all know that we really are having a treat with X.Fang this morning because she had her first child in February, I believe. Was it February or
In
January?
January.
January, beg your pardon. So I contacted X.Fang last fall after she had been selected not only to be in the show but as a winner. And I said, "Oh, we would love to have you come. Could you come in person? We also do our virtual programming, and you could do it virtually from Maine." And she said, "Well, I'm going to be a little tired
Yeah.
for a moment, but I would love to
Yeah.
a little later in spring." So we selected May. But yes, she's been busy with her new son. And congratulations again to you and your family and your husband.
Thank you.
And so, yes, what is your day like?
Well, before I had a kid, my day involved, if there was a deadline, it involved just like waking up, checking emails, and then just working um in my home studio. So sketching, like seeing where we were in our book project. So if I'm still doing if I'm trying to get a book dummy approved, I just spent all day sketching and revising sketches and looking at notes from my editor. Um, but if I'm making final art, my day involves just like waking up, having some breakfast, walking my dog, and then sitting at the table and just like working or trying to work without distractions until lunch. And then I have lunch and then get back to working some more. But now that I have a baby, I am not able to be at my desk as often as I would like. But I do get 3 days a week. I get to sit at my desk uninterrupted because luckily we have found some childcare. And so it very much looks the same where I like wake up, make breakfast, and I check my emails, look through the notes, kind of make like a to-do list because when you have a kid, time is precious. And so I make a to-do list of all the things I want to try and accomplish in a day. Like if I, for instance, I'm finishing up my third picture book, and my to-do list is like go over the notes I got from my publisher, and a to-do list today was like go over the notes from my publisher, um, respond to the notes, and start sketching the revisions based off the notes. And the goal is to like have all the revisions done by next week. And so those I just do like small goals for myself. Whereas like before I had a kid, I'm like, I'm just gonna finish all the final art in 2 weeks. But now it's like, I want to be able to respond to an email within 3 days.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, so we made the outline. I'm gonna go and outline Liddy's face.
So you can all be outlined by pressing a little harder on your pencil. You can be shading.
Right.
So I just wanted to say that Erin has said the very best kind of research, and that was a comment when you were doing your food testing.
Yeah.
We all enjoyed that. I didn't want to interrupt while you were doing that fabulous presentation, but yes, what a fun lot of research you had to do.
Yes. Okay.
That,
And so now that I've outlined everything, I'm gonna go in and like erase all of the residual pencil marks. Now it won't look perfect like it does on in my book because I'm using different materials. It's like a bigger scale. I'm at an awkward position. And because there are people watching me. I find myself very nervous when I draw in front of people. And so I'm somebody who I think I draw really well. But if you have people look at me, all of a sudden I'm like, is this how I hold a pencil?
I know it's different, but it's looking fabulous, let me tell you. So
Okay, thank you.
So one of our viewers said, what a fantastic presentation. Love the illustrations, and especially the menu on the back book cover is really fun. So she's actually having to go, but we'll watch on YouTube channel. So just for those of you who may want to repeat watch this and draw again and follow along, this will be uploaded onto our YouTube channel within the next month. So look out for that. But anyway,
Yeah.
from Teresa, who says, thank you so much for sharing your beautiful work and story. And she is joining from Olympia, Washington. So thank you
Oh,
so
wonderful.
much. Yeah, wonderful.
And so
Yeah.
now I'm gonna color in Liddy's face. And so of the 3 color pencils that I have, I'm starting with the lightest, and then you build up to one that's like a little darker. So I'm just gonna like color in her face. And I'm doing it pretty fast and like roughly, but I know a lot of people when they make pencil drawings, they're like line work is so like smooth and orderly. And you can probably tell from my book that my pencil markings are seem like very rough and fast. And I like that. I kind of like seeing the errors and imperfections in people's line work.
Yes.
It just like proves that
Yeah.
that a human touched this, you know.
Yes.
And so I like seeing the small imperfections because the small imperfections can't be replicated. You can't like if you make a little mistake, but it ends up looking really cool. It's very hard to recreate that,
Yes,
even though you try. And so
yeah, when you're trying to redraw something, that can happen, right? Because you were showing
right,
us in the presentation how you would do your rough drawing, and then you'd use tracing, and then you would do a final. That's a few
right.
different layers of even traditional drawing that you don't want to lose too much. But yes, I loved how you shared how you did the cover, because you had started to play with it digitally and then went back to drawing the whole entire thing and enjoyed it, and it worked really much better that way for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. And now I'm adding the orange just to have like I like having 2 colors layered on top of another just so it doesn't look so flat. And so we have like a little bit of orange in her skin. And you don't have to use like skin tone colors. So you can try using like a yellow, a light blue, and a like a purple, and then layering that on top and seeing what you can do. It could just be like an experiment. Be really fun to
Wonderful.
see different color skin tones. So I have a little orange there, a little orange to her legs, and then I'm gonna use the magenta. The magenta is I'm not going to use all over her Liddy's face. I'm just going to use it to kind of contour her face so her face looks less flat and more like rounded. I feel like I'm doing a makeup tutorial.
Yes.
Yeah.
A little blush on her cheeks.
Yeah. So we're going to start off by like, having a little blush on her cheeks. So Liddy is being made into a dumpling and she's kind of like annoyed by it. So sometimes when we're annoyed and we're angry, like our face gets flushed.
Yeah.
It shows up in our cheeks, right? It shows up in our cheeks and our ears get red. I know like when I get like upset or angry, like my ears turn red.
Yeah.
And then like a little bit of redness on her nose too. maybe a little bit on her forehead, on her chin. So we have
Wonderful.
like a little flushed face. And then now I'm gonna go along the edges and just kind of like create like a little bit of like contour around.
Yeah, speaking to value, because you were mentioning that it's why you enjoy using graphite. And as X.Fang said, it's a softer graphite pencil. So a lot of you might use a slightly harder one for doing, outline drawing or writing if you're writing in pen.
Yes.
But you want a softer pencil, which would be in the Bs. And
Yep.
just mention how someone could learn a little bit about values, because there is a way to sort of see all of those different tones, isn't there? You could do the bar, I guess.
Yeah, you can do like a gradient scale, but honestly, like one of the things I learned when I was in art school was just like using an HB pencil and just doing like a gradient chart using an HB pencil. So you're teaching yourself how to like press hard and press lightly. So for example, you can start off like really hard and
Yeah.
then like slowly lighten up your hand, and then toward the end it's just like very, very faint,
Yes, even with a
you
colored
know,
pencil.
with
Yes.
a colored pencil. Yeah, so it's you can use different like softness of pencils, but you can also just use one pencil and train your hand about like how much pressure you apply to
Yes.
the paper. And so, all right, I'm almost done. I'm gonna use this graphite stick, which is basically just pencil lead made into a little stick, and I'm gonna use it to outline, like do some shading in the dumpling as well. Like the thing that we did to Liddy's face, I'm gonna apply to the dumpling body. So there's just like a little shadow at the bottom, right there. And then give Liddy some gray shoes.
You can really see her coming to be three-dimensional now. It is
Yeah,
like sculpting with a graphite stick. Yeah.
yeah. And so, all right, so we have that. And there you go. That is Liddy from the book Made into a Dumpling. I'm gonna
Yeah.
sign my name right
Oh,
here. Yeah. So you can like, I challenge kids at home if they want to continue playing with this. Think about your favorite food and try to imagine yourself being made into that food. Like, what is your favorite food? Maybe it's pizza. Make yourself into a pizza.
yes, you could be a little triangle piece of pizza with your head peering out.
Yeah,
That's a
a head.
wonderful project.
Yeah, maybe your head is like the pepperoni. That'll be
Ah,
funny. Yeah.
yes, through. Yes, yes. Well, everyone, it's been amazing to have X.Fang this morning. What a treat, and what a lot of insight we've had through the presentation of how she creates her incredible books, which really you are like creating it from the book cover all the way through. I mean, you are a designer. All of your background has been so sort of set up as a foundation for you to be a picture book maker. You really did an amazing job, and
Oh,
Tundra must
thank you.
have just been like delighted to work with you. So
Thank you
everybody,
so much.
thank you for joining us. Thank you again for bringing us to your studio virtually, X.Fang, and I know you're going to have more books coming. We definitely want to have
Yes.
you in person to the Society of Illustrators.
Yes, my next book. We are definitely
Yes.
human.